What's happening, goukigod here. So just to be clear, this is not a review video. Seeing as the full game was available during the beta, I already did a more conventional review that detailed the gameplay modes and so on. The game hasn't changed dramatically since launch, and my opinion on it has remained the same. I still think it's an excellent fast-paced shooter. If you want to hear my full thoughts on the game, go check out that video. What I want to discuss in this video is if Overwatch, despite being a good game, is actually good value. Now you might be thinking, well of course it's good value if it's good. And I agree, a game being good is a very important factor to consider when making a purchase. But when you drop $60 on a game, or $80 here in Australia, there's a level of expectation in terms of what you should get. My biggest concern with Overwatch is that it feels a little light on content for a full price game. If you're unaware, Overwatch doesn't have a campaign or really all that much to do outside of the multiplayer, and it also didn't launch with the advertised ranked mode. From a progression point of view, there's nothing to unlock that changes the gameplay either. There's no weapons, attachments, abilities, or characters that aren't available from the start. Only superficial items like skins and emotes can be earned or purchased. So it's entirely possible to see everything the game has to offer on the gameplay front within the first couple of hours. Lack of content at launch seems to be a growing trend of late, and I think it's partially related to the situation we had a couple of years ago where lots of games were launching with massive issues. Publishers and developers appear to have learnt the value of shipping a stable game, but to achieve this, their solution in many cases is to strip out everything that's not polished. They then ship this content later on and make it sound like post-game support. Battlefront and Street Fighter V are two recent and obvious examples of this strategy. Both have had numerous updates since launch, which has addressed the initial lack of content, but undoubtedly the reputation and sales potential of both games has been damaged. Now Overwatch launched with an equally low level of content with only a handful of modes and maps. I wouldn't say it's as poor an offering as Street Fighter V, but it's a similar level to what Titanfall launched with, which is another game that was criticised for being light on content. Now I think this emerging trend is a bit of a worry. We're essentially being asked to pay the full price of a new game, but we're getting way less in terms of content. Instead, we're being sold a bunch of promises. Blizzard have said that more heroes and maps will be released for free in the future, but it's still essentially vaporware. Up until now, your typical AAA title retails for around $60, give or take depending on where you live in the world. At this price, most people expect to get both a multiplayer and a campaign, and the campaign length is expected to be at least 8 to 10 hours. If there's no multiplayer, then people generally expect the game to be huge with a ton of replay value. This has been the status quo for a long time, but I think we're starting to see a significant shift in the way that games are being made, and possibly the end of the traditional full-price game in terms of features and modes. I think developers and publishers have realised that the current DLC model isn't working. Sure, it might make them some quick cash in the short term, but in a lot of situations it burns their customers and splits their communities into the haves and have-nots. Making the typical large elaborate expansions is also expensive and time-consuming, and the big bucks are not being made from this type of DLC. Microtransactions are where the real money is made, and that's why it's so important to keep people coming back and playing the game for as long as possible. Just look at Grand Theft Auto 5. Take-Two recently posted earnings of over $500 million from DLC alone, and Grand Theft Auto 5 has hardly any paid DLC at all. The majority of it has been free. Holding back content at launch and adding it later on via a constant stream of free DLC helps elongate the game's life. It means that publishers can avoid making any additional expansions so they can focus on making microtransaction content. It also provides additional marketing opportunities, or what the gaming community often refer to as hype, which again can help boost sales of the game long term and keep players engaged for longer. Now, as I mentioned before, Blizzard have said that there's going to be a whole bunch of more free content coming to Overwatch. This means that we should be getting a constant stream of content for the game in the next 6 to 12 months following launch, so long as Blizzard feel it's financially viable to do so. Based on how many copies they've already sold and how many people they'd piss off if they didn't deliver, it does seem likely, but it's important to remember that if you've already bought it, they have your money and no one's going to force them to release more content if they don't feel like it. But to get back to my original question, and bearing all that in mind, is Overwatch good value? And I'm not talking about when you factor in all the free content that's coming later on. I'm talking about right now. Is the game and its current level of content acceptable for a full price game? Despite how much I like the game, I don't think it is. It may well be in 6 to 12 months time, but right now I think Overwatch is too expensive. But let me know what you think. If you're playing the game and enjoying it, did the level of content at launch disappoint you? And if not, why? Drop your thoughts in the comments section below. But that's all I've got for now. I hope you enjoyed this video. I want to thank you for watching, and I'm out.